This book is available for the guests over here at a very concessional price of rupees 650 rupees only for today. Thank you. So in fact, I wanted to tell you a secret. This is less than what you get on Amazon also. So and the author is available here to authenticate, to sign the book. So please don't miss the opportunity. I will now request Ambassador Amarendra Khotwa. Ambassador Khotwa is the Senior Vice President of Odisha Forum, but he is also in his own right a poet and a lover of literature. So we requested him to give his comments in the book. He was born in 1957 and joined the Indian Forest Service in 1981. Amongst other posts, he was also Ambassador of India to Ivory Coast and Argentina, and he was also Director General of the Indian Council of Cultural Affairs, and he writes poetry. A number of it have been published in India. Mr. Amarendra Khotwa.
Chief guest, eminent Dr. Karan Singh, Gajapati Maharaja Divya Singh Devji, Gokul Babu, author Ashok Bal, were together in Delhi University in KM College, same time, contemporaries, and Miss Joy. I was planning to say exactly the same thing which already author has described in detail. But remember, when we are talking about history, history has its own methodology, required reference sources and research base. What Ashok has done, Gajapati is a living tradition. He has started from the stories from where the tradition started. How the Chalanti Vishnu came the today's reality on the basis of number of Gajapatis, Maharajas, kingdoms, and Odishan history. Say, for example, what you're saying, there are lots of books written on Odishan history, on Gajapatis, on Odishan kingdom. He has done lots of research, lots of reference work. Say, we're talking about book of Prabhat Mukherjee. We're talking about the book of R. Subramaniam, N. Mukundarao. These are all very good books. But because they are pure history, they don't have readability. It is for people who do research, people who want to go for reference. What Ashok has succeeded, one, he has created a story which is mostly research-based. You may agree or don't agree with some of the conclusions. It does not matter. But it tells about Gajapati history, the tradition. It also talks about the rites and rituals of Jagannath, Lord Jagannath. Today, Jagannath culture is all over. When you are talking about Rath Yatra, 27% of the yatris are not Oriyas. They come from Rajasthan, they come from Haryana, they come from all over. It has become, universal now, Jagannath culture. There, the role of Gajapati is something which has a continuity. That tradition Ashok has pictured in his book successfully as a story. Please buy the book and read the book, and you will learn lots of Odishan history, Odishan culture, the Gajapati tradition, the kings and emperors of Odisha, and rites and rituals of our temple. He could have added a bit more about, like, say, for example, lots of textiles which are so original to Jagannath temple comes from the Gajapati tradition. On that, something could have been added, but probably the next book it will be added. Say, for example, we are talking about the culinary, the temple kitchen. Each of the Gajapati if you go to Madalapanji, some references are there. Lots of things have been introduced by Gajapati. Gajapati has behaved as Chalanti Vishnu, also as part of the people who worship Jagannath, or part of the Jagannath tradition. That is what he has projected so successfully. I congratulate him, and please buy the book and read it. As Odia, you will not only celebrate Jagannath culture, not only be with Chalanti Vishnu, you also know lots of things. Many books are available. Your kids will enjoy it more because they will be familiar with the tradition.
No, kids don't read any longer.
That's what I'm saying. They buy and make them read. Thank you.
Thank you, Avendra, for that endorsement. Now I'll request Gajapati Maharaja Singh Devji, for whom most of you are anxious to whom most of you are anxious to hear. A little bit of introduction. Most of you know him by reputation by this thing. But if you can reveal a few things about him. Firstly, I'm very glad to note that both Gajapati Maharaja and Dr. Karan Singh both have something in common. Both of them ascended I won't say the throne, but took up the responsibility of state at the young age of 17. Dr. Karan Singh was Sabha Riyasat, and Gajapati Singh Devji, because of unfortunate death of his father during Rath Yatra in 1970. Both of them were 17-year-old. Took up the entire responsibility of that. Also, present Gajapati Maharaja is the longest serving Gajapati in Odisha's history. He is going to complete 72 years in November this year. I know the Vikram Devji, you mentioned that, but he was disinherited. While he was still, the uncles are not mentioned, but this is what is mentioned in the book. But someone else was put in his place at the age of 50. You're right. Yeah. So that makes you a unique position of being the longest serving Gajapati in the history of Odisha. Maybe only Ganga dynasty, Chodaganga Devji was 72 years. There no one else has served that.
They don't have a long time because I have an easy time.
Yes, but you also have a longer time to go. So therefore, I won't be wrong in saying that you would remain the longest living Gajapati in Odisha's history. As was mentioned by Ashok, he studied in Ashok Kumar College, Raipur, and St. Stephen's College. Then he had his law degree and Northwestern University, Chicago. But you now know why he did not continue his law practice, because I don't know how many of you know that for 14 years, right from 1980 to 93, he was in Dehradun, and I had the privilege of knowing him because he used to come frequently to the National Academy of Administration to consult the library. These 14 years, I think he spent in introspection, looking after himself, and he got into a spiritual mode. He got the influence of two great thinkers of our generation, Swami Divine Life Society, Swami Shivanand Saraswati, and Chinmayanand Saraswati, both he was listening, and ultimately both he and Maharani Sahiba, both of them took Diksha in the Divine Life Society. So that makes him a spiritual elite, and that drove him to serve mankind instead of serving piece of land. So that is the greatness of Gajapati Maharaja Divya Singh Dev, and I wish that he continues. He remains. He's already the longest serving Gajapati, but I hope he is going to be there for uh, quite a long time to give us guidance, lead the Jagannath culture, the movement for Jagannath culture, and show the true path to the Oriya community. So you can speak from there if you like, or you can come here as you like. Okay. Sure. Thank you.
नित्याय परमात्मने बलभद्र सुभद्राभ्यां जगन्नाथाय ते नमः। गुरु ब्रह्मा गुरु विष्णु गुरुदेव महेश्वरः गुरु साक्षात् परब्रह्म तस्मै श्री गुरवे नमः। तस्मै श्री गुरवे नमः। Most respected Maharaja Dr. Karan Singh Ji, our eminent guests on the dais, and our good friends in the audience. Before I commence my very short address, I would like to take this opportunity to pay my respects to Dr. Karan Singh Ji. It is so wonderful that we could take out time to be with us on this occasion. And my wife is from Jammu, and so Dr. Karan Singh Ji is specially got special sentiments and love for us. So I would take this opportunity, Dr. to felicitate you with your project. There was a book which the Divine Life Society Centers of Odisha published on the birth centenary of our Gurudev, Swami Chidanand Maharaj, and it's a pictorial biography of Swami Chidanand Ji, and I would like to present that to us. Now we are fond of nature and wildlife, which is in our blood. So we happened to go to Masai Mara in 2018, and this is a pictorial experience of our safari there. I would like to present this. Last but not least, this is special Mahaprasad. It's called Tata Mahaprasad, which comes only to the palace. So this is the Lord's Mahaprasad. I've already signed this. Yes, I will do the needful job. Thank you, sir. Yes, sure. Please, thank you. I will sign. Okay. So as it has been just mentioned, I did my schooling in Raipur, Rajkumar College. And in the subject of history, there was absolutely nothing mentioned about the history of Odisha, not to speak of Gajapati. Zero. Then, when I went to St. Stephen's, I did history honors. And in the 3 years, nothing about Odisha, not to speak about Gajapati. Because we were made to understand that the history of India is basically the upper half of India. That is the center stage, that is the platform where everything important happens. And sporadically going down south, occasionally to other places. So Odisha was never in the limelight picture or scenario. Of course, as you have just heard, the scholars in the East, particularly Odisha, came out with certain publications of the history of Odisha, where there was mention of the dynasties, Gajapati dynasty, as it has been mentioned. However, as also our previous Mr. Khattu has mentioned, these history books can be very boring. They're all right for research purpose, scholarly activity, but for the general reader, it can become rather insipid, monotonous, and not very exciting. They go into controversies. This is in this inscription, that is in this inscription, so this is that, this is that. So the general reader doesn't find it very palatable. But what Mr. Bal has done, Ashok Bal has done, he's presented the dynamics of the Gajapati tradition in a very readable, interesting way. And this is necessary because when we come to the international scenario, there are very few English books on the history of Odisha and more specifically on the Gajapati tradition, which we can present to any person. You know, people come to Puri and they say, we would like to have a book on Lord Jagannath or on the history of Gajapati. We really are at a loss. So here is one book which we can certainly hand over to our friends when they come there. Now, very interesting title of the book, Gajapati, a King Without a Kingdom. Now, this title, A King Without a Kingdom, I first read in a very short booklet by Professor Harman Kulke. It was just about maybe 30, 40 pages. He was part of a project sponsored by the German Council and implemented by the South Asian Institute of Heidelberg, South Asia Studies Institute of Heidelberg. It consisted of several eminent scholars, Germans mostly. They had their own agenda. I will not speak about that. And this Harman Kulke professor, he took special interest in the Gajapati tradition or in the various dynasties connected with Lord Jagannath. So after Prabhat Mukherjee, this group did a lot of research work and Professor Harman Kulke came out with this book, Kings Without a Kingdom. Okay. When I read that book, I said, well, this is giving a different bend to the whole story. And later on, it was somewhere in North Germany that I met him. And I said, why did you give this interpretation? He said, well, sir, you don't have to agree. And he gave me the indication that he was made to say so. Okay? Now, what did he say? That the Gajapati had to resort to this strategy. It was a statecraft to legitimize their authority, their temporal, their secular authorities, to rule the people they had to sort of project themselves as having a spark of divinity or getting the blessings of the Lord and the servant of the Lord, blah, blah. This was expected because these German scholars, with their acquaintance with the European history, and for instance, the divine right of kingship of the Tudor and Stuart kings of England, they just drew a parallel. If that happened there, this is happening here, it must mean the same thing. So their whole projection was that this Gajapati tradition or the tradition of the kings of Odisha connected with Lord Jagannath was a necessary strategy, a statecraft to legitimize their authority over Odisha. You know, this is something which I find difficult to swallow. With the little acquaintance that I have with the subject, my thinking is this, I do not know if you'll agree, that this tradition has to be seen in the light of the Vedic heritage, the Vedic culture of India, which is unique, which is in total contradiction to what is happening in the West, from where the scholars came, for instance. Unless we look at the Gajapati tradition or the tradition of Adya Sevak in the context of the Vedic culture, we will be misreading and misinterpreting the whole thing. If we see what has happened in Purushottam Kshetra or Puri connected with Lord Jagannath and the kingly tradition, and we read, for instance, the stories from the Puranas about the great kings, you will find a lot of similarity. If we read what is there in Srimad Bhagavata, the Vansha, the story of the various Vanshas of India, you'll find a lot of similarity. If you read the stories in the Mahabharata about the kings, and you read about the Gajapati tradition, you'll find a lot of similarities. So the Gajapati tradition has its roots, has its genesis, has its origin, has its foundation in the Vedic culture of India. If you take it out and give another interpretation, then my friends, we are losing the plot. So here, what it was, India is a spiritual culture. The Vedic culture is a spiritual culture, and all material prosperity is inbuilt into that spiritual culture. The two things are not different. Spirituality, the spiritual values is the foundation for the society, life of the society, and the life of the individual, which leads to prosperity in every sphere. You lose the foundation, then the entire structure becomes shaky, just like a building without a proper foundation. So the Vedic culture gives us the direct message that spirituality has to be the foundation of your life, the life of the individual, life of the family, the life of the society, life of the nation. And the king has to set the tempo, the king has to set the example through his own life. So when we read in the Puranas, when we read about the kings of ancient India, this is what we find. So really speaking, the Gajapati tradition was not unique. It was a wonderful exposition of this Vedic concept of kingship, I agree. And it became sort of a matter of interest because it was connected with the temple of Lord Jagannath, which is one of the greatest places of pilgrimage, one of the four principal dhams of Sanatana Vedic Dharma. Therefore, it naturally rose to prominence, and the kings also did their job mostly, mostly I would say, because there are dark patches also which Ashok has tried to expose, which I will not expose, but he has tried to expose. See, when you have a line of centuries, there will be kings who did their job very well, and there will be kings who did not do their job so well, and Ashok has caught some of them. So, I would like to interpret the tradition of Gajapati in the light of the Vedic philosophy, the Vedic culture, the Vedic tradition, then it gels, it makes sense. And then this is not something which was invented by the Gajapatis or those who came in this line. This was happening in every kingship of India. Dr. Karan Singh ji will vouch for that. every kingship was established on this Vedic concept that this Lord is supreme, and not only the king, but every person in the kingdom have to do everything as service to the Lord. The Lord is present everywhere, not in the temple, but He's present everywhere. So in every action, we have to feel the presence of the Lord. Therefore, every action we do has to be as a service to the Lord. And the king has to set the example. So this was common to all kingship. Not only the Gajapati kingship, it was there everywhere, from north to south, from east to west. And not only in India, wherever Vedic culture went, this concept of Vedic kingship also went. For instance, the king of Thailand. So this was a part of the Vedic concept of kingship. And so we have to understand it in that way, then I think we are getting it right. And where do we find about the tradition of Adya Sevak? It is not Kapilendra Dev who started it, please. The origins are found in the Skanda Purana. Please read Purushottama Kshetra Mahatmya, which is in the second khanda of Skanda Purana, dealing with the Vaishnava khandas, which is titled as Utkala Khanda or Purushottama Kshetra Mahatmya, which tells about the origin of the manifestation of Lord Jagannath in this form that we see. And before this manifestation in the Chaturtha Daru Vigraha form, what was his form? And he was there also in Purushottam Dham. In what form? And how did the temple, the first temple, not this temple, the first temple, Adi temple was built by Maharaja Indradumna. And he was not the king of Utkal or Kalinga or Odisha. He was the king of Malwa Desha. And that he was the sovereign ruler of the known world at that point of time. So all that you will know, and then you will know how Indradumna established the foundation of this seva to be done by all the kings of Odisha to Lord Jagannath. So if you read the Skanda Purana, you will know how this Adya Sevak doctrine, as mentioned, came into being. That is the genesis, that is the root. And you will see that it is completely a Vedic sort of a sentiment, a Vedic philosophy, which was prevalent and very much living thing in ancient India. In medieval India, it got diluted. In modern India, it has almost disappeared. We are a secular state. Okay? But for the ancient kingship of India, it was dharma. Establishment of dharma was the first, foremost, and primal duty of the king. And he has to establish dharma through his own example. So it was not a mere matter of statecraft. It was a necessity for the king for the common good, highest good of the people. It is through dharma that prosperity for the kingdom can be achieved. All-round prosperity, lasting prosperity is possible if dharma is established. And the king has to show it in his own example. So it was not a strategy to legitimize the kingdom, because what was the need for this legitimization of kingdom for the kings in the Puranic times, for the kings in the ancient times? No, but they did it because it was a inbuilt, ingrained, inherent component of the Vedic culture. Okay, so I think we have to look at this tradition, which is still continuing by the grace of God, in the light of our ancient Vedic culture. Now, Harman Kulke never read that. And I do not know if Ashok Bal has read Purushottam Kshetra Mahatmya. You have? You have mentioned briefly. But you seem to follow the footpaths of Harman Kulke in saying that this was the statecraft, this was a policy to legitimize their kingship. It was not that. So without going further, I will very much congratulate Ashokji. And the other thing, Kings Without a Kingdom, as I said, was coined by Harman Kulke. And this word Gajapati, actually, Gajapati is one word in a full page of titles which the Gajapatis assumed from time to time, particularly the imperial Gangas. And this was just one word in that. And this became popularly connected with the tradition, as Ashok ji has rightly said, from the time of Kapilendra Dev. But by associating the dynastic rule with the word Gajapati, we are limiting the tradition. Because as I said, this only became to be used in the time of imperial Gangas and more often by the by Kapilendra Dev's successors. But that was not the beginning of the tradition. No. The tradition began with Maharaja Indradumna. And then in history, we lose track of it because unfortunately, all these invasions which came in, beginning with the Afghans and the Mughals and the East India Company, we lost our evidence. We do not know who are the rulers who ruled when Ashoka came. When Ashoka came and there was a great battle, as you know, on the banks of River Daya, and the River Daya became all blood. Who was that great king? We don't know really. We don't have all the evidence. Okay. And before that, Lord Jagannath was missing for 144 years because there was an invasion. And the king took Lord Jagannath to Sonpur, the king of Odisha, who was then the Gajapati. The Gajapati title was not existent. The Maharaja of Odisha took the lords to Sonpur and in deep forest put them in a cave to save the king, to save the Lord, and he remained there for 144 years because there was anarchy at that time. So who was that king? We don't know. So dynasties and after dynasties came, but the tradition founded by Maharaja Indradumna, we have to assume that that continued. That was the sort of a propelling, motivating factor in the kingship of the sovereign kings of Odisha, those who had the paramountcy of sovereignty over Odisha, or what was then the Odisha, we call it Kalinga, Utkala, Trikalinga, whatever, had this job to do. It was not a divine right of kingship of the Tudor and Stuarts. It was the reverse. It was the divine duty of kingship, which was the Vedic tradition. So we need to actually trace the tradition not through the word Gajapati, but through the word Adya Sevak. Then we start directly from Maharaja Indradumna and then come through the invisible time and then maybe come to the Somavansis, Jajati Kesri, when the history starts sort of revealing itself. And then, of course, the Gangas and all that, then it becomes quite clear. So it's a very long history, and the portion which is sort of absent maybe from 9th century AD to earlier times. The historians are very fond of saying it is lost in antiquity, within inverted brackets, because we can't do anything. However, whatever we know gives an indication, but we must trace the tradition to its roots, to its foundation, which is in Vedic literature, Vedic culture, and Vedic system of ancient Vedic India, and to the Puranas, particularly Skanda Purana, which completely in detail expounds the manifestation of Lord Jagannath, the construction of the huge temple in Puri. This is, mind you, in Satya Yuga, in the first Manvantar. We are in the time of the 7th Manvantar. This happened in the first Manvantar, Satya Yuga. And the temple of Maharaja Indradumna, according to Puranas, 1,500 feet high. But that was in Satya Yuga, okay? So we must relate to our Vedic literature, to our sacred scriptures, which we have complete faith in. We are Hindus. We have faith in our scriptures. Although we are in a secular India, we have not lost our religion. We have not lost our tradition. We are founded, we are established in our Vedic thinking, and that is what we need today to bring India back to greatness. I will not go into the subject, so thank you very much. We are very happy to be here with you, and do read the book. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much for this discourse. So you have really disabused our minds from the fact that Gajapati is not statecraft coined by someone to perpetuate his kingdom, but it's it's rooted in the Vedic culture, and you have to go back to Skanda Purana and all those things, because it's the tradition, upkeep of the dharma was the primary thing in those days. Thank you for listening. As I said earlier, interpretation of different people interpret history differently, and you just heard from the horse's mouth, as it was, what should be the right interpretation of the tradition. So now it's my great honor to invite Dr. Karan Singh to deliver his address as chief guest. I am really happy and really privileged. I first met Dr. Karan Singh in 1962, 60 years back, when he came to our school as the chief guest and as one of the monitors who was being awarded. And I'm glad that when I met him recently, he recalled the incident. So he has that sharp memory. At the age of 91, his intellect is as sharp as ever, would be put to shame many young people around here. As has been said, he became Sadr Riyasat at the age of 17 when Maharaja Hari Singh abdicated in his favor, and he took up the responsibility of Jammu and Kashmir, which was then had lots of problems. It still has lots of problems, but that was a time which was very moving, and he steered it very well. 2-3 small things I would like to mention about Dr. Karan Singh. Perhaps you may not everyone know, because Dr. Karan Singh is someone who's very well known. I don't need to introduce him fully because he's so well known, particularly people who come to India International Center, that it will be repeating many things. But maybe not many of you know that he was the first ruler of India who gave up his privy purse much before even the privy purse was abolished. He voluntarily gave it up and put all the money into a trust in his parents' name to look after the industry. Second small bit nugget I would like to mention is that at the age of 36, he became the youngest ever cabinet minister of Government of India, and he continued for 14 years, I think, 13 or 14 years in 3 ministries: tourism, health, and other ministries. And throughout this 13 years, when he was a minister in Government of India, he did not stay in a government house. He did not take a rupee from as pay, and he donated all his income to the government. So he is a great soul, great mind, and great lover of culture. One other nugget I would like to mention, because today we had something similar, something which would be interest to Dr. Karan Singh. He was the president of World Wildlife Society in India, and the most successful wildlife conservation project Tiger was under his direction. And I think he should be very happy that today cheetahs have made a return to India. So I will not say anything more about him. Of course, he is a great author. He has written a number of books. I was just reading through the whole list of books. What amazed me is that books are not of one topic, they're various topics. There are a number of books on history, there are a number of books on religion, particularly Hinduism, there are a number of books on culture, there are a number of books of this thing, and also there is a poetry book on Dogri poetry. So he is a multifarious talent, and we are very, very privileged and honored to have him amongst us today. Dr. Karan Singh.
Shri Jagannatha Swami Nayanapatami Bhavatu mein. Gajapati Maharaja Divya Singh Dev, Maharani Ji, who is from my hometown of Jammu, Dr. Gokul Patnaik, who is president of the Odisha Forum, and Mr. Khatua, who is former chairman of ICCR, which I headed for 9 years, and the representative from the Konark Publishing House, Jiza Joy, and members of the audience, packed audience, to hear Maharaja Sahib, who is a rare person in Delhi. मुझे तो सुनते रहते हैं आप. I keep coming. Maharaj Sahib doesn't come every day. And thank you so much, Maharaj Sahib, for placing this whole book and the whole concept of Gajapati in the correct perspective. You've given a new perspective to us all. And I have a suggestion today, the next book should be by you. Because he knows more than anybody else. He knows more than anybody else about Odisha. And a book by him would really be something very, very valuable. He's a highly educated person, and I'm sure that that book would be eagerly awaited. As he has said rightly, and as I think people tend to forget, during British India, British rule, 1/3 of the area and 1/4 of the population was under Indian states. It was not directly ruled by the British. It was ruled through almost 600 Rajas, Maharajas, Nawabs. And so for many, it is very interesting because what is happening is historians have concentrated mainly on British India and mainly on Delhi and all the disasters. Delhi is a city of disasters. We've had all sorts of, conquerors and even slave dynasties have ruled here. But they have forgotten the glorious achievements. For example, the great empires of South India, the Cholas, one of the greatest empires that we have known, with those magnificent Shiva temples, the Brideshwara temple in Tanjavur, the Chidambaram temple, the Tiruvannamalai temple, and so on, and the Sri Rangam temple. The great Odisha of the empire, which at one time, as he said, stretched from Ganga to the Kaveri, all the way down the coast. They are never mentioned. They only mention, these historians only mention the disasters, the defeats, and the negativities of our history. And do not mention the fact that our empires founded empires abroad. If you go to Cambodia, that the greatest temple in the world today is Angkor Wat. I don't know whether you visited it or not. Please visit it. It is the most extraordinary temple in the world, and that was built by Hindu dynasty. But what we did was we didn't conquer those people. Unlike the colonialists who conquered and then made their empires, our empire was made through love and through philosophy. We sent our saints, we sent our preachers, and we sent our artisans. And they are the people who built these great temples. You go to Indonesia, which is a 95% Muslim country, how beautifully they have preserved 3 temples in Java, the Parambaran temples, the Shiva temple, the Vishnu temple, and the Brahma temple. Beautifully preserved by them. And when 1 or 2 of them were damaged in an earthquake, and we said we'd help, India said, no, we'll look after our own temple. So these temples are held in very high regard. And this is one of the weaknesses that the historians have had, I must say. Not only the historians of the British period, even the post-British left-oriented historians never liked to talk about our empires. Because for them, the empires were something which were feudal and which were not to be talked about, not to be proud of. Whereas when we look at our history properly, we have a number of great achievements, a number of great empires, great kings, who have really burnished the image of India down through the ages. As you know, these states, Maharaj Sahib knows very well, we were all sort of, as it were, identified by gun salutes. So there were 21 was the highest gun salute. There were 31 guns used to be given to the viceroy. So we had 21 gun salutes. There was Hyderabad, Mysore, Jammu and Kashmir, Baroda, and Gwalior. These 4 were the 21 gun salute states, and then there were all the others. So it's very important that regional histories must be developed. Even in my own state, the Dogra history has been neglected. I am now starting to try and rediscover that history, to reorient that history. We are having We are having seminars around Maharaja Gulab Singh, our ancestor. As you know, we are the only community that has extended the boundaries of India. All the rest fought within India very bravely. Chhatrapati Shivaji, Maharana Pratap, and everything. But that was within India. We alone, the Dogras alone, at great sacrifice, conquered Gilgit and Baltistan and Ladakh. They were not part of India. Gilgit Baltistan was part of Central Asia. Ladakh was part of Tibet. So हमने ये किया. This is our achievement. Never mentioned in history books. No mention of what the Dogras have done. It is exactly what you said, Maharaj, that the whole neglect of the regional histories and concentration on Delhi. But Delhi में कौन राज करता? That is important. They are obsessed here. कोई slave dynasty आते, तो slaves ने भी आके यहाँ राज किया. बड़ी बात है. What something to commemorate? But they're not worried. They're not the people who won, who created new things. They're not worried about it. So history needs to be rewritten now, and not rewritten from a false point of view, but rewritten from a genuine point of view. For example, the history of Odisha. What a glorious state that Odisha is. I've traveled in Odisha. I've been to Bhubaneswar, the great Lingaraja temple, Konark, the extraordinary, astounding water temple that must have been. And I've been to Jagannath Puri on 2 occasions. And once the Maharaja of Patna took me in his plane to Bolangi when there was a convocation there. And so we have a lot of associations which I'll come to later. But it's a great state, beautiful temples, beautiful dance. The Odissi dance now has been accepted as one of our major classical dances. I remember when I first went to Odisha, that was I think in 1954 or 55, they got me to sign a certificate that Odisha was an independent classical dance. It wasn't by that until that time it wasn't even accepted as a classical dance. And now it has become one of our major classical dances, along with Bharatanatyam and Kuchipudi. And Odissi has become very, very popular and a very powerful dance. So all these great things are lost because, and the Rath Yatra, of course, is famous throughout the world. People flock from every country in the world in their vast. The word Juggernaut, of course, as you know, is based on Jagannath, something that cannot be stopped, something that is irresistible. And this car, when it moves, is something which is following the people. And the Maharaja, first of all, sweeps the place in front of the god. So this book covers a lot of very interesting things. I have not read it, I must admit. It's not an easy book to read. It's a very big book for one. And if you expect kids to read it, I'm sorry, there's no kid today in India who will ever read a book like this. But aspects, chapters can be read for anybody who's interested in Odisha or interested in history. It's an invaluable book. With the amount of research you have done, Mr. Bal, I must congratulate you for having done this. And you've got out very, very interesting. I don't know what are the controversial points that were mentioned, but whatever it is, you've done a very good job of work. And I must, and the whole of this Gajapati, the dynasties, the ups and downs, and the fratricidal war. Why would the Gajapati fight with Krishna Rao? One of the greatest rulers of Andhra. You see, this is one of the reasons why the princes came to grief. The whole history of India would have been different if the princes had not fought with each other. How did the Muslims come in? Because Jayachand and Prithviraj fought. It is our internal weaknesses, I'm sorry to say, that brought the invader. First of all, brought the Muslims, and I mean, they were notorious people. They came and looted India and went away. Ghazni and Hori and Nadir Shah and all those sort of people, because of our weakness. And I was astounded when I read that Krishna Deva Raya is one of the greatest rulers of Andhra. Uske saath lade aap log 9 saal. Then he killed God knows. You know, and you lost finally. But what is the big point? I mean, you look at the amount of damage that has been done. So anyhow, that is something in the past, we can regret that. But it is true that the internal dissensions have really brought all the foreigners into India, including the British, and then the British went. And but all through this whole period of ups and downs, the Gajapati retained his spiritual stature. That is the astounding thing. Jeete, Hare, they may have won, they may have lost, they may have won territory, they have lost territory. That did not make any difference because he is the Adya Sevak of Lord Jagannath. And anybody who is the first servant of Lord Jagannath does not need any kingdom. You have a much larger kingdom than anybody else had. Because he is Ishvara Sarva Bhutanam Hiddesha Tishtati. The Lord resides in the heart of all beings. The Upanishads speak of the divinity everywhere. Brahma vidam mitam purastat brahma pashta brahma dakshinastottarena dasyodhram japrasitam brahma vidam vishwamidam varishtam. This magnificent universe is nothing but the divine. And therefore, as the first servant of Lord Jagannath, you, Maharaj Sahib, have a very, very special role to play. You played it very well. You completed 50 years. I seem to remember that the Odisha organization invited me for a function to celebrate your 50th year. I don't know whether anybody here from that organization who remembers. I came here, I think, somewhere, I don't remember where it was, and I came there. Now, this tradition, the only other parallel that I can think of is the Travancore family.
We'll invite you for the 75th.
No, I was going to say not 75th, 60th. No, 60th over the 22nd, 2 to 40 May. In 22, 24, he will complete 60 years as Gajapati. So anyhow, that's a different matter. But what I'm saying is that it's the Travancore royal family is also a little like that. They are also Padmanabhadas. They say they are not ruling, they are servants of Padmanabha Swami. The beautiful Shantakaram, Bhujavinayanam, Padmanabham, Suresham, Vishwadharam, Gavana Sadesham, Megavaranam, Lakshmi Kantam, Kamalanayanam, Yogi Bhirabhyanagamyam, Vande Vishnum, Bhavabhayaram, Sarv Lokekanatham. So we have these beautiful, strong traditions. So it's really a joy that Maharaj Sahib is here. And let me now tell you about all my relations with Odisha. First of all, Maharani Sahib are here is from Jammu. So you are a Jawai, you are a Brahma. So that's one very, very important relationship. Then we are related to Mayurbhanj. My sister-in-law's daughter is the Maharani of Mayurbhanj, Rashmi. Then Rera Khor bhi Odisha mein hai kya? So Rera Khor mein bhi hamari rishtedari hai. One of my aunts from Nepal is married in Rera Khor. So my wife's cousins are from Rera Khor. My financial advisor, Mr. Raju, V.S. Raju, is from Odisha. I don't know whether he's come or not. I gave him an invitation today. Maybe he was not able to get in. There's so many people. There he is at the back. So all the financial advice that I'm getting is from him. And above all, let me tell you something. My granddaughter has married an Odia boy. My daughter's daughter Viveka has married an Odia boy called Rahul Sharma. It's an interstate, intercaste wedding, and they were at school together. It's one of those romances. And they are living happily by God's grace in London. So you see, look at this close association of Odisha that I have. It may be geographically far away, but we are very close. And I welcome this opportunity to meet with Vanda Sahib and Mani Sahib again, and their daughters, son-in-law, the grandchildren. And I hope that it will not take another 14 years before you come to Delhi. We'll have to bring you more often to Delhi. और सारी दुनिया के लोग यहाँ आते हैं, ये आते ही नहीं. अब मैं मानता हूँ ओडिशा बड़ी अच्छी जगह है, लेकिन दिल्ली चाहे कुछ भी हो है तो सही, कुछ दिल्ली राजधानी है, तो आपको आना चाहिए. आपको देखने के लिए देखिए आपके कितने लोग आए हैं, ये सब मुझे देखने नहीं आए, सब आपको देखने मैं एकदम पहचान लेता, कोई भी कश्मीर का या जम्मू का नहीं है यहाँ, सब हो गया बड़े पड़े, हमारे लोगों को तो अंदर भी नहीं आने देंगे। इसलिए आप कृपा करके आया करें, प्लीज कम हियर from time to time, and we'll keep in touch. And we should pray to Lord Jagannath to bless us at this stage. We are going through a difficult period. The whole world is going through a difficult period. It's not only India, because what's happening in Europe, they were the ones who were lecturing us for 200 years. अब वही लड़ाई शुरू हो गई उनके घर में. So we are going through difficult times, but at these times we need what he said. We need spiritual strength. If we have the spiritual strength and the spiritual grounding, and if our lives, apart from what we'll be doing outside, we are following an inner path, it will help us. And if it helps individuals, it will help the society. So my prayer to Lord Jagannath is कि हम पे कृपा रखें, and give us and Maharaj Sahib and his family a very long life and all happiness, and may he bless us also. My humble pranams to Lord Jagannath and affectionate greetings to Maharaj.
Thank you very much, sir, for your very inspiring address. You reminded us of our great tradition, culture, and history. So we should be really proud of our own tradition and try to preserve it. That's what organizations like Odisha Forum seek to do. Before we end, may I request present a few mementos to remind you of your presence here. I will first request Mr. Rishikesh Roy, Justice Rishikesh Roy, who is a Supreme Court judge, who has been kind enough to come here to present a memento to Dr. Karan Singh. Justice Ashok Roy is a sitting judge of the Supreme Court. I now request Mr. Amulyaratna Nanda to present a memento to Gajapati Maharaja of the Blessing Dev.
When he was young, in 1975 and 76, went to study LLM.
Thank you, sir. And I request Mr. D.P. Bakshi, ex-Chief Secretary Odisha, to present a memento to the author, Mr. Ashok Bal. May I now request, no book can be published without the publishers. So, as a token of our gratitude to the publisher, I request our founder president, Mr. Jatin Das, to present a memento to Konark Publishers.
Jatin Das is their institution in itself.
So he is the founder president of Odisha Forum. Thank you. Now I'll request Jija Roy, who represents Konark Publishers. She is the coordinating editor of Konark Publishers, to propose a vote of thanks.
Respected dignitaries on the dais, ladies and gentlemen, what a spectacular evening this has turned out to be. Well, I have a dual role here to read out a special message from the publisher KPR Nair and to propose a vote of thanks. It is indeed an honor to pen down a few remarks about the making of the book Gajapati, a King Without a Kingdom by Sri Ashok Kumar Bal. I would like to begin by conveying my regards to Honorable Dr. Karan Singh Ji, Honorable Gajapati Maharaja Dibya Singh Dev Ji, Ambassador Amarendra Kadwa, and Sri Gogul Patnaik. The book, which has been released just now, is a Konark publication, and I regret not being able to take part in this event physically. I'm right now in Dubai trying to expand our publishing expertise into the Middle East. In this process, I have roped in Konark author and yoga and holistic expert Sri Amar Chandel to conduct a 2-day workshop today and tomorrow on health and wellness. If not for this event, I would have definitely been here for today's launch. I have been in the publishing industry for more than 5 decades, and destiny has played a major role in this journey. Some unexpected developments, which were nothing less than miracles, have led me to find new paths in publishing. I strongly believe that the book on Gajapati is one such instance where destiny was guiding me. The birth of Konark Publishers happened in the year 1986 when I, along with Mr. V.C. Jain, decided to start a new venture when we were at the Konark temple seeking the blessings of the sun god. That's how the name Konark Publishers came about, and my connection with Odisha remains strong to this date. I am happy that I have been able to give back something to the people of Odisha by means of this book. My journey to Odisha in my professional career started in 1973 while working with Thomson Press, New Delhi. The late Sri Abhimanyu Bal, father of the author Sri Ashok Bal, was my guide and friend during the time I spent in Odisha. He may have been a man of few words, but he was a great human being who was deeply respected for his vast knowledge of many subjects. I still remember with great fondness the love and concern he had for me when I was a young man trying to establish myself in the publishing industry. Being a Keralite who was trying to adjust to a new culture, he was like a father figure to me in many ways. I'm very happy to be associated with Sri Ashok Kumar's excellent work on the institution of Gajapati and send my best wishes for today's launch function. I also extend my sincere gratitude to all the dignitaries on the dais and also all those present here on a great occasion like this. Thank you. On behalf of Konark Publishers, I would like to thank all the dignitaries for sharing their insights with us. My special thanks to all those who have gathered here today, especially the wife and the family members of the Gajapati Maharaja. An event of this dimension cannot happen overnight. I thank Odisha Forum team, Konark team, and the staff of IIC, and all those who directly or indirectly helped us to make this event a success. Thank you all once again for being with us today evening. Good night.
Thank you, Jija. There's two announcements to make.
Odisha Forum had published a seminal book on Madhusudan Das. As you know, the Utkal one is called Madhusudan Das. It's a collector's item. It's available outside. Those who want to purchase one or two copies, they can purchase it at a very reasonable price. Number two is that good news is that this December we are going to have a Pravasi Odia conference, 23rd, 24th December. And this is in association with World Odisha Society, and we are going to have people from all over the world, Odia diaspora all over the world. Please tell your friends to keep 23rd, 24th December, those who are outside this thing. And one further announcement, if I may, at these functions, annual functions, we give an award to people outside Odisha, those Odias resident outside Odisha who have achieved accomplished something in some greatness in life. So please suggest some names. We have a very elite jury which will go through them, and 5 or 6 of the eminent Odias living outside Odisha will like to honor them. Thank you very much. And good night.